I'm starting to get real nervous about what the Red Sox front office has been saying. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and we've pretty much exclusively been talking about front office comments since the offseason began. A big reason for that is because it's really the only thing we have to talk about right now, right? When your team doesn't make the postseason and you've got sort of this gap in between, all you can really focus on is what this front office is saying. And I got to tell you, with everything they've been saying to the media lately, I'm starting to get nervous. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So today we are talking about why I'm starting to get nervous about what the front office is saying, what it could mean for the offseason, and what it could mean for the Boston Red Sox. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So the reason we are going to continue to talk about comments from this front office is simply because they are continuing this media tour that they've been on with Red Sox media, and every time it feels like we get a little bit closer to what the Red Sox may actually be planning. This time, it was Craig Breslow on the Rob Bradford podcast, Baseball Isn't Boring, an absolutely fantastic listen. If you haven't listened already, I'll put that link in the description. But for this, the big quote that I want to take out of this one here for you guys is Rob Bradford asking Craig Breslow whether or not it's finally time for the Red Sox to be aggressive, because his response was, quote, "Obviously, it is difficult to say this will be a more aggressive in terms of what will actually come to fruition, because we can't always decide those things. But we are preparing to be more decisive, more aggressive, to field a team that is capable of winning the division, making a deep playoff run. I think we did spend several years, obviously predating me, building a really strong foundation. The reason you do that is so you can deliver on the field, and I do think we are arriving at that point." That was the tone that team president Sam Kennedy struck. That was the messaging I am getting throughout the organization, that it is time to deliver to our fans the teams they have come to expect, the competitive level they have come to expect with the Boston Red Sox. And the reason we are talking about this today is because this is sort of becoming a theme for the Red Sox on this media tour. This whole sort of, hey, we're done standing around, we're done trying to build, now it's time to compete, now we want to win. And this should be exactly what we've been wanting to hear, right? As Red Sox fans, we've been sitting here rather patiently, well, I wouldn't say quietly patiently, but definitely patiently as Red Sox fans, sitting here waiting for them to say something like this, to say that they are willing to go out there and actually do what's necessary to make this team better. We've heard this from Alex Cora now, who said stuff like, this year, 2024, is going to be the last year of bad baseball from the Red Sox. We've heard this from Sam Kennedy, who represents the ownership of this team, because John Henry and Tom Werner are not speaking to media, mention a similar rhetoric. Now we have Craig Breslow saying a very similar thing. It feels like everyone in this organization truly is ready to take that next step. And for Red Sox fans like you and me, that should be absolutely exciting. So the problem is, why am I sitting here unbelievably nervous with these comments? I think the biggest reason is because I'm starting to feel a little bit like Charlie Brown trying to kick a football. Going back to 2022, it's been a few years of very similar comments. Coming out of that season, you didn't do well. You finish in the bottom of the division. You don't have a winning record. Ownership says, hey, that guy Xander Bogaerts, that guy Rafael Devers, yeah, those are cornerstones of this team, and we're going to ensure that they are here and we are going to compete after this bad season. Well, that ended up going a different way. 2023, you come out of it, you say, well, wait a second. Last year, it didn't exactly go our year, right? You finished with the same record as 2022. We're going to fire Chaim Bloom. We're ready to be aggressive. He was not aggressive enough. We're going to turn this ship around. Well, here you are in 2024 doing the exact same media tour you did the last 2 years, because you're not in the playoffs. And sure, they did get marginally better. And sure, there were emergences from players on this team that give you a lot of confidence as to what this team could look like. But at the same time, too, you're starting to get a very similar rhetoric. That's why you see a lot of the comments in this video are going to be full throttle 2.0 or stuff like that, because we've heard this before. We've heard these promises. They've ended up ringing empty at the end of the day based on actions. And it's really hard at this point to be genuinely excited about anything this team is saying, which is why every single time Craig Breslow or Sam Kennedy or Alex Cora opens their mouth and says something like this, I get really nervous, because part of me is sitting there saying, yes, Finally, right? I agree. This is the time to be aggressive. I don't know how they can come up with another excuse not to be aggressive. They might actually do something big this offseason. The other part of me sits there and feels like Charlie Brown, where you sit there and you say, hey, man, I've heard this before, and you're going to do the exact same crap you did the last two off seasons. You're going to blame it on something else. You're going to find another excuse, and you're not going to be able to do what you set out to do. It's the reason why every single one of the videos we've made so far about comments from the front office this offseason has always ended the same. I've done this very much on purpose, where I say at the end of every video, all of this is fine and dandy, all of this sounds good, but until you put actions to words, none of this really means anything. And to me, right now, what they are doing is they are building expectations, and if they don't have actions to match those expectations, it's going to continue to feel like they do nothing, and the words that they say are going to continue to get less and less meaningful. Another big reason why I get a little bit nervous about what the Red Sox are going to do this offseason is because quotes like this are often followed by another quote, and a similar quote to what Craig Breslow followed up with Rob Bradford on this topic, where he talked about where the star power for the next great Red Sox team is going to come from. He said, quote, stars have been a significant part of the story for the Boston Red Sox for a very long time. I don't see any reason for that to change. Now, I think the question is, where do stars come from? Certainly, they are available via free agency and to some degree via trade, but I think we have a number of players who are going to be stars in the organization right now. We have to figure all of that out, how to balance that out and put the pieces together. And before we get into the full breakdown as to why this quote makes me a bit more nervous when it comes to expectations, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into this quote breakdown. Okay, so I apologize for the interruption there. I will put the quote back on the screen for those of you who don't remember what I just said while I'm talking about this a little bit. But does this sound like someone who is ready to go out and land a white whale? Or is this someone who sounds like, once again, they are going to try and lean on youth and inexperience to be the catalyst of the next great Red Sox team? Honestly, I don't really know, and he's not totally wrong. There are players on the Boston Red Sox currently that are considered stars or should be considered stars in Major League Baseball, and those absolutely should be guys that you foster and continue to grow in this organization, whether that be promising prospects like a 3 top 10 prospects in the sport or the number 1 prospect in Major League Baseball, or that be the guys on this big league club. Jarren Duran has emerged as one of the best players. I would say that last season, he had a top 10 season in the entire sport last year. Rafael Devers has continued to be on that list for years now. Tanner Houck has emerged as one of the game's best starters. Whether you like it or not, he was a top 10 starter in the AL this season. Tristan Casas had a breakout year last year. He's going to be healthy going into 2024. There are absolutely reasons to believe that the star power from the Boston Red Sox is going to come from within. It's going to be guys who have been here for a little bit, who are finally reaching their full potential. The problem is we had those guys in 2024. Those guys were all on your team for the most part, right? Tristan Casas, obviously not with the Boston Red Sox, but 3 out of the 4 of those guys gave you all-star, superstar, talented seasons, and yet it wasn't enough. And I think the problem with all these quotes about you need to be better, you need to be more competitive, leads a lot of people to believe that the Red Sox need to increase their ceiling and their ceiling only. And that is absolutely something the Red Sox need to do. Coming into this season, what was the projected ceiling of the Boston Red Sox? Most people said, hey, if they get more than 77 wins, they're outperforming. That was before all the injuries. Best case scenario, a lot of people were like, including myself, saying, yeah, maybe this is an 84-win team, right? Maybe this is a team that sneaks into a wild card spot. If you can raise that ceiling a bit, and all of a sudden the ceiling, the best case scenario for a Red Sox team is 90 wins, well, that's a much better place to be in. But I also think they need to raise the floor as well, because the problem with the 2024 Red Sox wasn't so much that they didn't have superstar talent. It was the fact that when that superstar superstar talent wasn't performing, the rest of the team wasn't holding its weight. If you can increase the floor instead of, oh man, worst case scenario, this team might be one of the worst in baseball too. Hey, worst case scenario, this team probably still wins at least 80, 85 games. You're in a much, much better spot. It needs to be both, and I feel like they are setting fans up to believe that, hey, if we don't get stars and stars only, this team's going to be crap again, when in reality, they need a star, they need 2 stars maybe, but they also need to really reinforce the ground floor. And the good news here is that Breslow does understand that. He did say in a quote on this same podcast, I think you want to leave room for all of those things, because most teams that make a deep playoff run do have players who outperform what you think they were going to be, but they also have built in enough of a floor that they can weather the regression that comes with that. With everything that we have seen from the Red Sox Media Tour this last week or so, and what we're going to continue to see until the offseason truly begins, it is kind of giving me hope, and that makes me incredibly nervous because, again, it feels like I'm Charlie Brown and I'm sitting there saying, hey, man, I've heard this story before, and they're sitting there and they're saying, no, trust us, this time it's completely different, and I'm going to end up flat on my back like Charlie Brown. But at the same time, too, at this point, I could be as optimistic as I want about what the Red Sox are going to do this offseason, but I think we're all in this same boat where these words mean nothing until there's action behind them, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Craig Breslow's latest comments? Are you starting to get the point like me where you're getting cautiously optimistic? That's making you nervous that these are just flat promises that they aren't going to keep again? Or are you sitting there saying, none of this matters to me, Corbin, I'm waiting until they actually do something? Or are you sitting there saying, none of this matters, they aren't going to do anything, I've heard this story before, I'm not being fooled by that football again? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.